Hello, I'm Tom Clowes, the founder and executive director of Crossing Borders Music. Happy Juneteenth, everyone, and welcome everyone who's joining us live. Welcome to everyone who's watching at a later date. Juneteenth is a special holiday. In the words of the Crossing Borders Music former board member, Marjorie Adam Clark, Juneteenth is a day of racial healing. This is a bit of an unusual live stream in that usually we start with music, but we have a very special documentary video, a world premiere video by Chicago area filmmaker Ruby Lane. This is the first time that this documentary video will be shared publicly. And we're about to see that. Later on, we're going to have two of the composers who are part of this Juneteenth project join us in this live stream live, and you'll be able to ask them questions and interact with them, and we'll get to as many of your questions in the chat as we can. Crossing Borders Music is a nonprofit organization, and our mission is to use music to promote the dignity of people from all cultures. And to do that, we especially share and promote the music of people from marginalized and underrepresented cultures. I think that's about it for now. Please enjoy, like I said, the very first time this documentary has been shared in public, a documentary about the Crossing Borders Music Juneteenth commissioning project. And the music that was commissioned for it. It's really a remarkable documentary made possible with the support of the National Endowment for the Arts and Illinois Humanities. Please enjoy this documentary video by Ruby Lane.
When I got this commission, I knew I wanted to write about Africa. Just the story of African princes, African royalty being enslaved and having their royalty, their priestlyhood just snatched away from them to be enslaved.
I came at it not as I'm a Black woman, we're doing something for Juneteenth. I came as an incredibly complex cornucopia human who wanted to write something that just felt right.
What I do have is my voice, and what I do have is my creativity, so I'm just going to write this piece of music, and I hope that it encourages people to really get out and vote and use their voices and try to do something to change what's going on right now.
I started just kind of teaching myself. Wasn't until about the 4th grade when I got into the school orchestra and I started actually learning like violin technique and like classical violin. My sophomore year of high school, I auditioned for the South Bend Youth Symphony, got in, and that was the ultimate springboard into artistry. That opened up so many doors. I was around other kids who had very similar artistic passions as I did, playing Beethoven and like Bach and Mendelssohn and all of the great composers you can think of. And it was like a whole world had opened up to me. I remember from a young age, I watched Roots, and I watched Alex Haley's Queen, read the book, all of that. And I discovered this particular African prince. His name was Abdul Rahman Suri. He was a West African prince, and he was enslaved at the age of 26. This piece was for string quartet. It's just 4 instruments. It's not very difficult compared to some of the other pieces I've written. You're writing the piece, you know what it is, you just gotta write it. And it's like I haven't really allowed myself to still explore what the music can bring to me as a composer, as opposed to just what it can bring to the audience.
As a child, I had biofeedback, which is very weird. Many people have no idea what it is. You can actually control the processes in your body after you have done this for a long time.
You're setting on the sides of the first views of the freedom.
I can't do that with performers, but I like that idea that you can create a system where the performers are inevitably going to be opening new neurological points, like patterns. They're not used to interfacing with material in this way. The term New Renaissance artist was something that I developed because composer doesn't fill the totality of who I am as a human and who I am as an artist. Nobody can ever steal my music because there is no one way to perform it. I'm really interested in what happens in the mind on stage. So if you're going to involve a human, you're going to involve living things, it's more interesting to create works that really are these neurological think pieces.
This time around has gone so great that my faith can't hold out.
I started learning how to make music when I was 11, joined my middle school orchestra, kind of started learning how to songwrite and sing and compose in high school. During my undergrad, I studied jazz and music composition and ended up being like the first African-American woman to get a composition degree from Michigan State when I graduated, and the first student to ever get composition and jazz degree at the same time. The name of the piece that I wrote for this concert is called Stand Up for Breonna Taylor, as her legacy needs to live on, as we need to learn from these injustices in the United States. She was 26 when she was murdered, and I was just about to turn 26, so it really hit me hard. And the only way that I knew how to kind of like deal with the emotions was to put it into a piece of music. My hopes and expectations after hearing the piece today is that people feel uplifted and people feel somewhat connected to feeling hope for the future. Because while it is about like activating people to do something in the present, like you have to act now for something to change in the future. It's very hard to show up in a space where you're traditionally not seen, and historically there hasn't been space made for your voice, especially in the music industry. Try to, resurge some part of the history of your people into this space and into music. We're showing up every day as a form of not only resistance, but our existence is our resistance. It brings me so much joy to meet the future generations of kids who are showing up, little black and brown girls who are like, oh my God, you have no idea how much of an impact this is making on me seeing you. I was like, actually I do, because I have never had this, and this is why I'm here.
There's a certain way that Black composers write emotions in their music, and it's that much more powerful to play that music because I also can tap into those emotions and I know what they're, kind of pulling from when someone is there and this is their piece. It's kind of cool to be able to showcase somebody who can be there to help you showcase their piece.
To be a part of the celebration in this way it's a huge honor. It just further exemplifies that I'm going down the right path as far as music goes.
Love is the thing that keeps me grounded and keeps me going and keeps me motivated to continue making music. I'm happy to be here. I'm proud to be a composer and to be involved in music and to hopefully give, the future generations inspiration to keep going and to keep stepping outside of the box and not letting people tell you that you can't do anything, because I have a whole resume to show you that I can do it.
Congratulations, Ruby Lane and Mustard Seed Productions. What a beautiful, beautiful documentary. Thank you so much. And congratulations to all the people involved. I want to emphasize again that this project, including this documentary video, is really the brainchild of Marjorie Adam Clark, a former Crossing Borders Music board member and longtime Juneteenth organizer and activist and wonderful, all around wonderful human being. So thank you so much, Sister Marjorie. We appreciate your work, and your legacy is living on in our organization. I'm so excited to be able to invite our first guest on this live stream. You just heard her speaking about her work stand-up. Jordan Davis is an award-winning bassist, composer, songwriter, vocalist, and multi-instrumentalist, originally from Detroit, now living in Brooklyn in New York. In 2019, she became the first Black woman to receive a bachelor's degree in music composition from Michigan State University. And she was also, as you heard in the documentary, the first person to receive both a music composition and jazz studies major from Michigan State. She now has a master's in jazz studies and quite a list of accomplishments. As you said in that documentary, she's the leader of her own band, Compose the Way. And just last month, I believe, your piece was played by the New York Philharmonic in Young People's Concerts. And your new single is titled Night Off. Jordan, welcome.
Thank you so much, Tom. It's so great to be here.
It's so great to see you. And I'm so excited that we get to share the arrangement that you made for us of your piece, Stand Up. And I was feeling emotional listening to and watching that beautiful documentary that Ruby made. You said so many things that I think are so resonant to me. And one of those things was you said, you know exactly what it's like to be, well, what it means to see people who look like you in this field, because you didn't get to see that. What, if I can ask, what was it like to grow up not seeing yourself represented? And when was the first time that you then did see yourself, and what did that feel like?
That's a great question. Yeah, I think growing up, it very much so left me feeling pretty invisible. And now, now that I'm living in New York and constantly in these diverse rooms, I have to remind myself that people can see me and they want to see me, and that I'm in this room for a reason. It's not to be hidden or to be a small entity, it's to be my best self. And for me, when I first saw somebody who looked like me in person, it was actually, ironically enough, India Owens, who also studied with my mentor at Michigan State and is out here killing the game in the jazz world. So just remember that day so clearly. They did every year, the Michigan State University Jazz Studies program does a commemorative concert on Martin Luther King Day. And I was I was studying environmental engineering as a freshman, and my RA or something came to me and was like, "Oh, I'm going to go to this concert. Do you want to come?" And I was like, "Sure," and it ended up completely just changing my life and helping me realize like this is something that I can do. And many years later, I found myself eventually transitioning into music with the help of so many great people. But it really is insane how much your belief in yourself changes when you see somebody who just looks like you doing what you want to do, especially in music, because women of color, folks who are just non-masculine identifying are not at the forefront, or traditionally have not been at the forefront of performance and composition and production, like most things in music that we recognize great artists for. And in my research and in my individual practices, like I'm trying to not raise awareness for us, but just like bring us to the front without hesitation and without fear.
Yeah, Jordan, you're reminding me that so often when we use the term genius, that we give that label to Beethoven and Mozart and Brahms, but we don't necessarily give it to if I'm remembering her name right, India Owens, is that correct?
India Owens, yes.
Yeah, bass player, is that right?
Yes.
Yes, I know her, or I know of her, and a wonderful musician. We don't necessarily use that label for women of color. We don't necessarily think in the same terms. It's a disparity that you are working to correct, and I appreciate that. We've mentioned that you were the first Black woman to graduate with a composition degree from Michigan State University. And I wonder, I feel like there must be something that you felt like was driving you to be a trailblazer in that path. Like what made it possible for you to blaze that new trail?
Yeah, I mean, when I started at Michigan State in 2013, like I said, I was studying engineering, and I got involved in the College of Music as a way to like activate some electives. Like I took a songwriting class because I was like, calculus, physics, these are killing the brain. Like I need to have some balance. And the more I started songwriting and participating in that community, like the more I realized like the power in my individual creative voice. And also seeing the members of that community, there was nobody else that was doing a lot of interdisciplinary work. There was no one else. There were very, very few other women, and there was no other women of color. And so it was the same thing that I was seeing when I was studying engineering and geology. Like it was the same perplexing, just like isolation. And I was just like, I can't have this be what is normal for everyone else, because this is just unfair. You're spending so much time trying to understand where everybody else is coming from, and they're taking up so much space, but you're never truly invited to take up that space yourself unless you decide to take it and claim it. And so like, I was like, I'm going to claim this space because they don't want me to claim it and they're not helping me claim it. So I have to figure out a way to just go after the thing that I know that I want to learn about the most in the world, and that fuels me, and that this is aligned with my purpose. So whatever I have to do to get there and prove the point, I'm going to do it.
That is beautiful. Thank you for sharing, Jordan. You shared about your piece Stand Up, that it was written in response to a very traumatic event, the murder of Breonna Taylor. I remember in 2020, after the murder of George Floyd, interacting with a young Black cello student of mine, and he was clearly upset about something, and I wasn't sure what it was. And eventually he shared something like, I thought this country had made more progress in how it treats minorities, I think were his words. And he didn't quite say, I didn't realize, that this could have been me, but I could see and I could feel the emotion in his voice and the difficulty. And you have taken that trauma and that an event that is so deeply disturbing for so many reasons, and you said you wanted to create something inspiring. And I just want to, I guess, comment that I think it's quite remarkable that you took something that is so disturbing and difficult, and without denying, without minimizing that, you are working towards something that is inspiring. How do you approach that artistically, to go from something that is so dark to want to go to something that is inspiring?
Yeah, I mean, Tom, I'm even getting like emotional now thinking back to the time in which I was writing this piece, and how distraught and how much fear I felt living in Lansing, because during that time in 2020, all of the, Lansing is the capital of Michigan. So all of the major protests towards our governor, that was happening in my literal backyard. And there's people with flags and big trucks and a lot of anxiety and a lot of anger and a lot of hatred just roaming around the place that I lived. And it, like, on top of already being isolated because of COVID, I was like, I don't even feel comfortable going outside at all. So, and looking at Brianna, who is such a beautiful woman, I didn't want people to continue talking about what happened to her, and to keep talking about her with such despair, and to only be reminded of her death. I think what's really important is to remember that she lived a life and that she was a growing, beautiful young woman, and that what is unfortunate is that she wasn't allowed to carry out her story and to continue to live it on. But because of what happened to her, it has caused a ripple effect in our society and in our culture, to begin having these conversations and to begin trying to take more actions to protect Black women and to protect women and to make sure that these things don't happen again. And I wanted to write a piece that reminded people that things are constantly evolving and things are constantly changing. And just because we talk about something bad, like just because we remember the bad, like that's the thing about memories. We always remember the bad things over the good. And it's just like so important to me in this piece to remind people of the power of their light and the power of Brianna's light, because had her life unfortunately not been sacrificed as a result of, a sacrifice in police brutality, we wouldn't be here having this conversation, and we wouldn't have this beautiful piece of music that I put together to express that. And in the initial iteration of the piece, there is, we did it too at the premiere last year. There's a spoken word text, but in the initial iteration of the piece, I commissioned a great colleague of mine who's a poet and a writer, Sharice Morris, to create a text to really help carry on the story through a universal light. And it's really kind of like centered in Afrofuturism and how, I'm a sciencey person coming from studying geology and engineering and those sorts of things. So I really wanted to tie in these elements of biology and light and life, and, what it looks like for, energy or matter cannot be created or destroyed, and all these kind of elements to really just remind people, like, we are matter, we are beings, we have to respect each other, we have to uplift each other, and this hatred and this violence and this is all so unnecessary, and it's not aligned with our purpose. So that, you know, like I said, like I was so afraid to go outside that all I knew how to do, the only thing I could think of to do was to sit down and just try to put it into music so that I could continue carrying on these conversations, and getting people to think deeper about what happened to her. It's not just that a Black woman was murdered. You know, it opened up so much more conversation and dialogue around the Black woman's experience in America. And I am thankful to Brianna because of that, because she helped me see my own individual value and how I need to treat myself with kindness and care and love and pride, as well as the other women around me, and as well as the other people around me, because we have to do this together. There's no us. There's no, I hate to say this, but there's no I in team. You know, we're not going to make the changes that we need one by one. So,
Jordan, I think it's just beautiful what you shared, and again to take something that is so negative and create something that can inspire us to do better and to be better, and that you, as exactly as you've said, have used and continue to use your voice and take up space and to share your truths with your voice here and now, which we really appreciate, and also through your beautiful and powerful music. I think this is a great time then for us to share one of the first times your arrangement for Crossing Borders Music, string quartet and narrator, your beautiful piece, Stand Up.
Yes, and really quickly, I just want to say thank you so much to Tom and to this beautiful organization. You all were like one of the first folks to really perform my music and have continued to give me a platform over time to continue talking about the things that matter to me as an artist, and just making me feel very appreciated and seen. So thank you so much.
That means so much, I know, to all of us who are a part of this organization. Thank you so much, Jordan. We really appreciate you. And let's now enjoy your incredible music.
They'll have us thinking we were data sets, but between horizons where strata meets the setting sun, that is where you'll find us. Up from atmosphere's gleanings, we are bigger than the notions, more vast than any national proceedings. What we've been dreaming is the wishes and prayers of our ancestors made manifest as energy we will not be created or
Such powerful music and a powerful message. Thank you so much, Jordan. We really appreciate you on behalf of all of us here at Crossing Borders Music. Our next piece is by the Honorable Elizabeth A. Baker. It was also something commissioned by Crossing Borders Music in honor and celebration of Juneteenth. And it was quite a remarkable score in that the notation was entirely graphic, meaning that there are these beautiful colors and words and instructions, and not really the traditional Western music notation. And it really freed us up as performers to express this very conceptual sound and music. It's really about a wash of words and feelings. For me, I experience it as a wash of emotions and feelings and soundscapes and entering into a sort of almost like a different world for me is the way that I experience this piece. This is a notice with powerful messages that are not otherworldly at all, but really a reflection of our own world, and really about the process of healing, which I discussed with Elizabeth, and she said that healing is something that we all need and all need to do, regardless of our race, our gender, who we are. We all need to take time for ourselves and heal. Speaking of which, Elizabeth, I hope that you are feeling better. I'm sorry that you couldn't be with us here in this live stream, but we are absolutely wishing you good things, and know that it's that we do need to take this time for ourselves, for our minds and bodies to heal. So thank you for letting us share this beautiful music. I want to just share about Elizabeth. Elizabeth is a new Renaissance artist, as you heard in the documentary. She created that term to try to capture the totality of who she is and what she does as an artist, feeling that the term composer doesn't really adequately reflect what she does. She says her work is best expressed as a constantly evolving practice that doesn't fit neatly into definition or expectation boxes. It is an artistic body of work vast in scope and scale, outside of the confines of a simple elevator pitch, unrestrained and unencapsulated. She goes on to say that innovation and expression of ideas that cause people to think and listen deeply has placed Elizabeth at the forefront of discussion about humanity, the impact of art, mental health in the artistic community, as well as dismantling hierarchy in artistic practice and society as a whole unit. Elizabeth's work has been studied by scholars across the globe, recognized by the press, highly sought after by performers, and been a life-changing experience for collectives of people from a wide range of backgrounds. In the 21-22 school year, she was a fellow at Harvard Radcliffe Institute and in Massachusetts, and both Fanfare magazine and the I Care If You Listen music site have called her the Pauline Oliveros of her generation. So we're very excited to share one of the very first ever performances of This Is a Notice, written and commissioned by Crossing Borders Music, written for Crossing Borders Music in a wonderfully graphic notation that left us very free as performers to express ourselves and express this quite unique and remarkable music. Please enjoy This Is a Notice by the Honorable Elizabeth A. Baker.
One night, under an old oceanographic bridge,
buried your wounds.
Hudson protect me.
Coalesced and calcified cosmic scar tissue coated with stardust cells. Coalesced and calcified. Lives within my physical
And so you bury your wounds in a dynamic
cells churning,
Always moving.
cosmic scar tissue
Always
and
graceful.
stardust cells.
Stardust cells.
That is the
I inherited discrete knowledge of your struggle.
cells churning, right? Always moving, always bracing.
Cells turning, writing, always moving, always bracing. I inherited discrete knowledge.
I inherited discrete knowledge of your struggle.
I will be the recovering of cells.
I will be the
Version of
version
swirling anxious energy center.
I will be the recovering of cells.
Your flesh.
Version of swirling anxious energy stored too tightly in a hardened container of flesh. I will become off stars hidden within cellular molecules.
I will define a new type of freedom, a new story, inconceivable for past generations.
I will define a new type of freedom, a new story inconceivable for past generations.
I breathe in.
I will not allow the community of tearing boys.
Define my reality.
To define my worth.
In the darkness of night,
To define my worth.
actually cells during warriors, my body sticking to break free of gravitation.
Interrogations about today productivity.
I breathe in.
And the attainability of tomorrow's dreams.
Interrogations about today, productivity, and attainability of tomorrow.
out.
I breathe out.
I breathe in.
I breathe in. Settled cells. Ancestors.
I breathe out.
I breathe out.
I breathe out.
We are healing.
We are healing.
Our healing.
We are walking together to a new level of cosmic peace.
We are walking together to a new level of cosmic peace. Contentment.
We are walking together to a new level of cosmic peace. Settled cells.
Settled cells.
Settled cells.
Dreams.
Contentment and dreams.
Contentment.
Contentment.
Settled cells.
Settled cells.
That piece is a journey, both to play and to listen to. Thank you so much, and congratulations, Elizabeth, for this music centering this theme of healing. We are healing. Welcome back to our Juneteenth live stream. Again, I'm Tom Clowes, founder and executive director of Crossing Borders Music. We're so delighted to be able to share, for one of the first times, music commissioned in honor of Juneteenth in a project guided by our former board member and longtime Juneteenth organizer and activist, Marjorie Adam Clark. Thank you, Sister Marjorie, for your inspiration for this project. It's a special moment now where I get to introduce our next live guest. Wonderful, relatively young musician, if I may say, but wonderfully talented Jessica T. Carter, who is a Black American composer, violinist, mezzo-soprano, and educator, who is from Indiana, currently living in South Bend. And she is swiftly making a name for herself. She's been described by Aspire magazine as evocative and by Apricity Museum as lyrical. She specializes in concert music, film scoring, and musical theater. Her aim and goal in music composition is to exude the message of hope to all, but specifically to marginalized children. She's a 2-time scholarship recipient, a grand prize winner, and holds 4 publications, including that of groundbreaking research entitled Concert Music of the Civil Rights Concert Music of the Civil Rights Movement. Quite a resume of accomplishments. Hey, Jessica, thanks so much for joining us.
Hello, thank you so much for having me.
And would you like to share with us what's on your shirt there? It looks like you're wearing a Juneteenth.
Yes, I am. I'm wearing, it says Juneteenth because my ancestors were not freed in 1792. So
Yeah.
I decided to wear it in honor of the holiday of Juneteenth. I thought it was a perfect opportunity to wear this shirt.
Wonderful. And I see exactly that. The July 4th is crossed out because, as you said, for your ancestors, they were not free on July 4th. 1776 or 1792, not for quite a number of decades or even generations later. Jessica, if I remember correctly, you said that Juneteenth actually wasn't such a big deal in your family growing up, but also, as I remember, you said that this is something that you celebrated today and maybe are celebrating now. Has your family practice changed over the years?
Not really. I mean, we always acknowledge Juneteenth. I was raised by my grandparents, and my grandparents, especially my grandmother, very big on historical culture and just African American history. And so we've always acknowledged it, but we never did the cookout or anything like that, although I would have loved if we did. Today I celebrate Juneteenth in my own way with mostly reflection and just kind of taking the day to just kind of reflect on where we are as a country, where I am personally, and and where we've come from, both as a people, as a society, as a country. The list goes on, but it's still not a big deal in my family outside of that.
Yeah. Would you mind? Would you be so kind as to share some of your reflections then today? What's been on your mind?
Yeah, of course. Well, one of the things that I had this realization while Jordan's piece was being played, and while she was talking about her piece, and that was an interesting realization I made, was that she wrote her piece about Breonna Taylor, and I remember where I was when I learned about the murder of Breonna Taylor. I was in my grandmother's kitchen and I was sobbing for hours, just sobbing. And Breonna Taylor was 26. And the piece that you guys will hear soon, my piece, Forgotten Royalty, is written about an African prince who was the heir to an African throne, who was enslaved, who was also 26 when he was enslaved. And so I had that realization earlier, literally an hour ago, and I just was like, whoa, I didn't realize that was the same. They were the same age. But I think one of the main things I've thought about today is just kind of where we at as a country when it comes to like reparations for African Americans and people of color. Recently, and I may say this wrong, so correct me if I'm wrong, but I know recently the Supreme Court ruled in favor of African American voters in Alabama, which is like amazing. It was a 5-4 vote, and I'm happy it's happening, but it's also kind of like it's been a long time coming, and so it's amazing that I learned about this on Juneteenth, like that this is a day that we used to commemorate, not the official freedom of the slaves, because there would be flocks and flocks of slaves being free for years after Juneteenth, but it's the day we can recognize as like the first beginning of like, okay, yes, the slaves were freed, and they were spreading the news that they were freed, and they were taking steps to make sure that they were no longer enslaved. But also Juneteenth commemorates June 19th, 1865. It is June 19th, 2023, and we're just now getting a ruling in favor of African American voters in the United States. And so it's like I said, it's a win, but it's also kind of like okay, why is it taking so long? Is this just now happening? Why is it taking, and so I reflected on that. We've come a long way as a country. I think we still have a long way to go. And kind of going off of everything that's been said in this live streaming up till now, it's a time for action, it's a time for healing, but it's also just a reminder that this is just one step, like one stepping stone in the long journey for equality and equity for African Americans across the board in this country. So
thank you for putting that so eloquently. The way I might describe that is that African American liberation may have started so many years ago, but it's an ongoing journey that goes through you and through us and through today and into our future. That's
I agree.
A beautiful way of putting it. Jessica, you shared in the documentary and shared with me it was important to you to write a piece that was related in some way to Africa. And you wrote a piece about an enslaved African prince. Sorry, why was that important to you?
Because my grandmother, again, I was raised by my grandparents, and my grandmother, she has always wanted to go back to Africa. She's always wanted to go, but she's never gotten a chance to for several reasons. And so she is like, I've grown up watching these movies, and seeing documentaries about Africa and about, like trying to imagine what life was for African Americans before this big change, and that's putting it lightly, happened, where they were literally shipped from their country and from their lives over to this new land and forced to live a life that was completely different than what they were used to. So with that being said, like when I got this commission, I knew I wanted to write about Africa for that reason, but I also wanted to kind of, I had recently learned about this African prince, Abdul Zori, and I wanted to kind of put myself in his head as to what may have been going on with him emotionally when this was happening. And there's no way to really understand what's happening when someone is literally forcibly being removed from their home, specifically their home that they're the heir to the throne of this home, like being forcibly removed and placed on a ship across the Atlantic Ocean for weeks, months. There's no telling how long it was. And then forcibly placed in his new land and made a slave, going from being a prince to being a slave. I mean, it's horrible for anyone, but I can only imagine how it was for him. And so I really wanted to kind of put myself in his shoes and just imagine what it must have been like, and put that in a way that would make it understandable for both myself and also for others. I feel like slavery, for a lot of people, the idea of American slavery, we all know it happened, although some people will still like to imagine that it didn't. We all know it happened, but I think one of the things that I personally struggle with in the way other people identify slavery is that it's imagined in a way that's almost like animated, or it's not, it's or almost in a way that's not like real. We're not seeing the reality of it. And although lots of media, media outlets and artists have gone gone the distance in trying to bring the realities and the brutalities of slavery to life, I still think a lot of people nowadays would prefer to not think about that. Like, we don't want to think about the realities of that, because then we're forced to reckon with it. And reckoning with it means we have to do something about it, right? And as long as we don't have to reckon with it, we don't have to do anything about it, we can pretend like it never happened. What I wanted to do was I wanted to bring to the forefront of not just what happened, but how it must have felt, to make it so much more human, like to bring the humanity to him, and also to make it an understanding type of emotions for everyone, so that they can listen to this piece and just imagine what may have been happening, and just feel the emotion there of anguish, of anger, of whatever he may have been feeling. Like, that was my goal. And so that was, I kind of went on a tangent a little bit, but that was definitely that, all of that kind of informed my decision to want to write both about Africa and specifically about African royalty being ripped from an African prince.
Thank you, Jessica. For me, I just reflect that, two things about your piece, and thank you for sharing all of that so eloquently. One is that you're right, like, you and I will never know exactly what that's like, to be enslaved, and especially not only that, but this particular incredible story, even for somebody who was enslaved, that he was that prince, he was going to be the king, and then he had that all ripped away from him. I believe you said that the plantation owners would refer to him as prince, kind of as an insult.
Yep, they would mock him and call him prince.
Right.
Yep.
And so to try to imagine that, of course we don't know what that's like, but at the same time, I feel like maybe we can all relate when we experience something that is just so clearly unjust and so clearly unfair, that we can also, that is a feeling that almost all of us have had, and that we can relate to, even if we can't imagine what we can only imagine what this particular prince's experience is like. But another observation that I have about that title and that theme is I wonder what you think about this idea, but for me, forgotten royalty is a way of saying that deep within us, and deep especially within African American people who are not always recognized for the totality of their humanity, that we have that royalty, or we have something that's special, that each of us has that inside of ourselves. I don't know if that was your intention, but that's sort of a way that I've always thought of your music and your piece.
Yeah, absolutely. It wasn't my intention when writing it, because I had this very distinct narrative in my head of this man. But the more I dove into it, and the more and as I've seen it performed, and workshopped, and all of the stuff that you do when it comes to writing a composition with a great organization like yours, is that you start to see it grow, and you start to see it manifest in and of itself, and it became a story that wasn't just about this one man, but about all African Americans and their descendants, and about how we all have that sense of royalty within us, and we in a sense, like, it was forgotten because of just the way everything has played out for African Americans in this country, but to always remember that, hey, that is still there, it's still inside of you, and that's definitely something that has grown from this piece. And I think it's really beautiful, because it's been a reminder for myself to remember kind of where you come from. I'm reminded of I hate to say it, but I'm reminded of Lion King when Mufasa is telling Simba, remember where you come from. Granted, Simba was a king, but like that idea, like that is so ingrained, in the African Americans as a people, like to remember the culture that you came from, and to want to, to establish there was a need to establish a new culture here in the United States, but a lot of that came from the culture that we had already have established from whatever country we were taken from in Africa. And so that was a growing theme as well. And it's definitely a kind of a two-sided coin, where there was the obvious story of this man, but also the growing story of everyone who listens to it, specifically people of color and African Americans who listen to this piece, can remember within themselves where they come from and to have pride in that.
That is so beautiful. Thank you, Jessica, for sharing that. Before we listen to this really, really beautiful piece and just really nicely written, there were so many things as we were rehearsing this piece that we just kind of kept on discovering these musical elements that the more we dug in, the more we discovered, which is such a cool feeling as a performer. I did want to share, though, before we share this piece for one of the first times, I wanted to share that Jessica will be a mentor and teacher for teenage composers on the west side of Chicago in the Garfield Park and North Lawndale neighborhoods. And so thank you, Jessica, for taking on that role this summer. We're excited for this new Crossing Borders music program, and especially excited to have you be a part of that, and for the young people involved, and can't wait to see what great pieces they come up with. So we'll be looking forward to that later this summer and the end of the summer. But for right now, I invite you to be one of the first people to enjoy this really lovely work, Forgotten Royalty, by Jessica T. Carter. My goodness, congratulations, Jessica. I really, really enjoy that piece. Like I said, the more times I hear it and the more times we would rehearse it and perform it, just the more I pick up and the more little elements that I enjoy. So thank you so much for writing that piece with us, and we look forward to playing more of your music and commissioning more of your music in the future. We have just a couple pieces left in this live stream with you in the special day in celebration and in honor of Juneteenth. And our next piece is by A.J. Isaacson Zvidzva. This is her string quartet number 1, which she recently revised just a couple of years ago. And I believe we're one of the very first groups to be, maybe the first group to be playing this new version of the string quartet, which may not have been performed much before the revision either. So it was an honor to perform this work, even though it wasn't written specifically for this project. And AJ, if you're watching, please let us know and let me know if I got that all correct and if this work has been performed by other groups. I'd like to tell you a bit about AJ. She holds a Bachelor of Music degree in viola performance from Augsburg University in the Twin Cities in Minnesota. Before discovering that the viola was her instrument, she was a competitive dancer and an oboe player. As a composer, her primary teachers included Randall Davidson and Linda Tutus Haugen. And her work, Angell Sang to Me, for soprano and string quartet, which was commissioned by the Cedar Cultural Center in Minneapolis, has been performed and continues to be performed by ensembles around the United States. She told me just a month or two ago that about all the performances of that piece that were coming up. It's really, I think, going on about a dozen performances all around the country. And there is a recording available of Angell Sang to Me by AJ on YouTube that I encourage people to check out. It's an incredible piece. AJ writes that in addition to music, she's a caretaker for her brother and is presently working on a book about historical and modern composers. She's traveled to 33 states with her husband, where she has taken up hiking, kayaking, and angling, though she has yet to catch a fish. She's also female, BIPOC, a violist, a composer, an amateur musicologist, and she lives with mental illness. This is a really wonderful multi-movement work that it was an honor to record and put together. This is String Quartet number 1 by A.J. Isaacson Zvidzva. Congratulations, AJ. What an awesome piece, and beautiful, beautiful writing. It's very clear that you know how to use the string instruments and draw full, rich, and especially low sounds from the viola and the cello. Thank you for that. And we're excited that AJ will be, actually has arranged for Crossing Borders Music, new arrangements for string quartet of music by Thomas Wiggins, who is known as Blind Tom, a pianist whose music should be better known and will be, thanks in part to the work of AJ. So thank you, AJ, for arranging that music for us. We're so excited to share that later this summer in a new program we have coming up of music by African-American composers, including eventually the ones who will be working with Jessica this summer. We hope to add their work to that exciting program coming up for us at Crossing Borders Music very shortly. It takes a village to create music and put on these events. And so I want to thank so many people. I mentioned Marjorie Adam Clark, the inspiration for all of this. Also our guests, Jessica T. Carter and Jordan Davis, as well as the Honorable Elizabeth A. Baker, who shared her beautiful music with us, which she wrote. Just for us. I also want to thank Brennan Mitrolka, who ran the live electronics in This Is a Notice, as well as AJ Isaacson's Vizva, whose work we just heard, Ruby Lane, who created the wonderful documentary video at the beginning of this broadcast, Mi Ran Choi, who's been working behind the scenes, running the tech, and of course, our performers. They don't get nearly enough credit. We don't mention their names nearly enough. Violinist Jennifer Leckie, Rasa Mahmoudian, Phyllis Calderon, who was also the narrator in Stand Up. Violist Sixto Franco, a wonderful violist. Kailie Holiday. We were just talking behind, sort of in the back room, so to speak, about what a wonderful cellist and human being Kailie is. Thank you so much, Kailie, for your time and talent sharing with us. I'm Tom Clowes, and I also played cello on This Is a Notice. The cinematography was by Aidan Kranz. The music was recorded by Ryan McDonald. We want to thank Second Unitarian Church of Chicago for providing the space for the recordings to be made. We also want to thank the Paul M. Angell Family Foundation, the Department of Cultural Affairs and Special Events of the City of Chicago. This program was made possible in part by the support of the Illinois Arts Council Agency. And this program in particular, lead funding was provided by the National Endowment for the Arts. Crossing Borders Music is also funded by the MacArthur Funds for Culture, Equity, and the Arts at the Richard H. Driehaus Foundation. And I also want to give a shout out, finally, to the Crossing Borders Music Board, including Mi Ran Choi, who is going to appear here in a moment with working their behind the scenes magic and making this live stream so seamless. Hey, Mi Ran, thanks for joining us. And would you like to share a few words about our organization, Crossing Borders Music?
Yes, I would. Thank you for the introduction, Tom. Hello, everyone. My name is Mi Ran Choi, and I'm a board member of Crossing Borders Music. Thank you so much for joining us today in today's live stream and for supporting us in our efforts to promote the dignity of people from all cultures. Our work centers on the sharing of music and stories of people from underrepresented cultures in community to uplift and to affirm. By sharing these conversations and experiences, we not only grow better informed, but we also are able to cross out the borders that ignorance, misrepresentation, and prejudice can create and perpetuate. If you're enjoying today's live stream and are interested in future events, please check out our website at crossingbordersmusic.org or our Facebook page for more information. Our next event will be taking place on Saturday, June 24th at 2:45 p.m. featuring Hamid, a Canadian Rohingya refugee musician for World Refugee Day. We will also be having several in-person events in the Chicagoland area throughout the summer. Whether in person or online, we hope you'll join us again as we continue to share much needed stories. Thank you.
Thanks, Mi Ran. We have just one more piece to close out this program, and this one features Kailie Holiday playing a solo on her cello. And this is Adoration by Florence Price, and it was arranged in part by Kailie and by the Crossing Borders musicians. Please enjoy this one last piece, a beautiful, beautiful, luscious singing song without words, Adoration by Florence Price. And thanks so much for tuning in, and happy Juneteenth, everybody.